Despite efforts to curb climate change, carbon dioxide emissions have continued to rise over the past 10 years. Countries and companies urgently need to mobilise for a greener future.
Companies are going to have to make a distinction between trying to look good and actually having impact.
Promises are easy to make. Delivering on them is more difficult. Zanny Minton-Beddoes, our editor-in-chief, spoke with Bill Gates about what needs to be done to fund the green economy.
Let's start with how this year, how COVID has affected your thinking on the climate. I think in a recent blog post you wrote, COVID-19 is awful, climate change could be worse. So what has this year taught us about how we need to approach the climate crisis?
Well, climate is like the pandemic in that we really count on governments to think about the future, to bring in experts, and avoid terrible things happening out in the future. In the case of the pandemic, it wasn't taken seriously. There wasn't much preparation. And so now we're paying the huge consequence. There is a difference, though, which is that the pandemic, over a period of years, we can innovate, come up with a vaccine in particular, and bring it to an end. Climate is something that's slowly getting worse and worse, and there's nothing anywhere near to a vaccine, where for tens of billions of dollars, you invent it, manufacture it, get it out to people, and the problem goes away. Here, climate change is a side effect of the entire physical economy.
So it's not as easily solved. It's coming, it's inevitable. How do you frame the climate challenge? And particularly, is it primarily a challenge of behavioral change, that we need to change the way we live to be more sustainable? Or is it a challenge of innovation, that we need to find new technologies that allow us to live in a carbon neutral way?
We're not just trying to reduce emissions by 15% or 20%. We're trying to get to zero. And since the kind of activities that create greenhouse gases today are pervasive, you cannot drive the demand for those services down all that dramatically. In fact, in developing countries, you should allow the demand for those services to go up. And so although it always helps, every little bit helps, you can't get anywhere near zero without having a new way of making steel or propelling a passenger car or a plane. It requires an innovation where the extra cost of doing it the clean way, which I call the green premium, through innovation is brought down ideally to zero.